If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip and join the fellowship.
Hi there and welcome to Can You Hear Me Now, our weekly conversation about music matters and music that matters. I'm going to get that right one day, Alan. Script every week, so we've got to write a script. I don't have a huge amount to talk about before we invite people in, and if this is your first time watching or you've been lurking up to now, do join us on the Google Meet, which is linked in the video description down below. The format of this podcast is have a little chat about stuff that's going on in music, stuff that is going on in the company Crow Hill, but we try not to hawk stuff. It's not what Crow Hill's about. We just we keep ourselves going by selling samples, but it's part of what we do. If you just click on the Google link, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but just join us, mute your microphone, and stick your hand up if you've got a question, an answer, or just want to take part in the conversation. So, Alan, you were away last week, and you're back from Malaga, which is nice, and I hear it was very hot and lovely.
It was great.
Did you have any nice Spanish food?
We had plenty nice Spanish food and some nice Argentinian steak as well, which I enjoyed.
Like steak? I always find it fascinating that Spain has such a great kind of variety of cuisines and amazing produce and stuff. Yet they insist on having, I don't know if you experience this, croquetas with literally every meal, which are these like deep fried cheesy, no, they're not cheese, they're like white sauce and potato things.
Yeah, we had a lot of that whilst we were there.
Yeah.
The Spanish seem to like potatoes.
Yes.
They seem to just really enjoy like potatoes with every meal.
And bread.
Yeah,
I had a Chinese meal in Vitoria in northern Spain, and it's just great watching this all of this Chinese food come with a big basket of bread. It seems somewhat queer, but it's like you just won't get away with it in Spain.
Well, it was hilarious because I went to where we stay in Spain. There was an Argentinian steakhouse like literally across the road. You're sitting having your steak, and the manager or the cook comes up and is like, "Would you like some garlic bread with that?" Never had garlic bread with a steak ever. Very nice. I would recommend.
Do you hear any? Because Malaga, I'm right in saying, is Andalusia, which is the home of flamenco. And did you see any flamenco action?
So no flamenco action. Like I was there, it was a working holiday for me. Okay. So it was paddle all the way.
Okay, good. Well, good for you. I'm quite close with flamenco because I used to work with flamenco guitarists, and I don't know if people realise that the flamenco is based on the bull, on bullfighting. So that's why all of these shapes when they're dancing is the horns, and it's also quite an unusual form of music because the players play to what the dancers are doing, and the dancers are conducting the music. It's not the other way around. The dancers aren't dancing to the players. So it's quite interesting. So if any of you who are going to join us on the fellowship know of other forms of like traditional music where the musicians don't lead, but maybe the dancers do, I'd be very interested to hear that. Few little bits to get to before we invite people on. If you go to the Extras channel, I've done a short tutorial about the competition. Now, what we've decided to do is, for various reasons, one, the brief wasn't very good or clear. It's quite a technical challenge, this one. But also, we had problems with the submission form and stuff and how to use it and amount you could upload, which have been corrected. What we thought we'd do is we'd extend it to the Friday before Black Friday, and then on Black Friday, and I'll let you guys know about this, we're going to move the podcast from the Wednesday to the Black Friday just for that 1 week. We're going to have like a special event and go through what people have done and pick a winner and all of that kind of stuff. And also, it's probably for a lot of you the first time that you've been asked to do quite a long bit of music that has some changes, some sound design, dialogue editing and dubbing. But I do insist that this is a way into the industry to be a one-stop shop. So have a look at the tutorial. I'm also cutting that tutorial into a broader piece about why we put music to picture. And I've been doing loads of research about silent films and it is bonkers how they used to do it. Some good stories there. So keep an eye on our main channel. Talking of which, on Wednesdays in the annex, there's like a day team and a night team. The day team is the content team. The night team are those two chaps and myself for the podcast. And we would love it if on our shift you got us across the 150,000 subscribers mark on our main channel. So if you're watching now and you haven't subscribed to it, just could you go and subscribe? Because we'd love to celebrate that live with the audience, but also it'll really annoy the content team who, by and large, contribute the largest amount to the subscribership. Talking of which, Kaizen, do you guys understand the concept of Kaizen? It's a really interesting one that sounds like a very traditional Japanese kind of thing that maybe stems from learning to play taiko drums or sushi rice, all of those things of the kind of 10,000 hour points of view. It actually, Kaizen comes from Toyota. And basically it's this idea of small incremental improvements and changes. It's, for me, about working in a way that is where contrition is absolutely essential. And it's something I really believe in where entrepreneurialism is concerned. It's a long way around of saying that basically the experiment of moving this live podcast to the Extras channel has not been hugely successful. And instead of like picking up more viewers and attracting more contributors, it's had the reverse effect. So what we're going to be doing is moving it back to the main channel live, and you'll be able to see the live versions after they happen in the live section of that channel. And then the edited version that Alan puts up to all the podcast distribution channels, Spotify, etc., that version will go on the Extras channel along with little extra stuff that we put up there, extended interviews, all of that kind of stuff. So it's still worth being subscribed to both. We're not going to do it next week. We want to give 2 weeks notice. So for our 50th podcast episode, we'll be back on the main channel, and that's where we will stay for the live version. The edited version will still go out on Sundays on the Extras channel as it currently is. Sorry to have caused confusion, but as I say, this is Kaizen, just small little bits of improvements, see how the audience responds, etc., etc. And, you know, I guess just to kind of let you into kind of my mindset, this podcast for me is important. Even if people don't join it every week, even if people don't watch it every week, I just think it's important that people know it's here. And the problem with the Extras channel is it's kind of hidden away. And I think that's a shame. I think people need to know that it's here and come and join in if they have a problem. We had an amazing contribution a couple of weeks ago with someone who was struggling a little bit with a sense of foreboding of being in between jobs, and I felt that the fellowship did a good job of making some recommendations there. So I think it's important that we are exposed, so to speak. I'm also making a film about these things, compressors, and wondered if anyone who is joining us today, but also anyone who's contributing on the comments or the feed within the live stream, I'd like to know what your favorite compressor is, either hardware or software plugin. So if you're wanting to appear on this video about compression, which we're hoping hundreds of thousands of people are going to watch over the next few years, then I would love to know what your favorite compressor is. It could be a bit of hardware, can be imitation hardware like a UAD, or indeed, is it the Logic house compressor, which is, I think, a very good compressor. And I will be sharing my thoughts on that. Clue is, it's one of the three behind me. Maybe you can guess which one it is. So we've mentioned the channel subscribers, and I've got a little note for if someone joins us from Brazil this week. I want to talk about a studio that I saw in this amazing article about the 10 most amazing studios in the world. The one in Poland looked absolutely mental. Has any of you seen that article? Do we have any questions from the community, gentlemen, behind the screens?
We do. First one is, if you could go back in time, what would you say to your 18-year-old self?
It's a really good question. I would share what Harry Gregson Williams said to me, and it sounds so obvious, but it's not a race. And I think the strength of expression and the wealth of stuff that you can employ in the art of composition is based on the fuel that you put into the tank. So I would say at every opportunity you have, don't sit in front of your computer. If you're not working, don't stress. Go to some concerts, go traveling, experience some culture, and don't worry about what other people are doing. It's not a race. If I had had social media, there was some, periods where I struggled. There's this biorhythmic production cycle thing that I've spoken about on this podcast and on this channel. When you start out, what you tend to do is you build up relationships with people. These will not last the whole career. We all base our hopes on developing a relationship like John Williams and Steven Spielberg. Those relationships are really, really rare. And if you look at like Alfred Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann, they fucking hated each other by the end of their kind of run of 8 films together. So what I would say is, what happens at the beginning of a career is you'll get a contact and you'll get another contact. And what you'll find is you may find there's a kind of a whole, it's like buses, suddenly 3 jobs will come along and you'll think, that's me, I'm off to the races. And suddenly those 3 contacts will disappear into writing scripts, doing pre-production, getting financing, all of that kind of stuff. So you will get these gaps at the beginning. And I think if I'd had social media during those big gaps that I had at the beginning of my career, I just would have been crushed. So I think that it's not a race. Ignore what people are putting up on Instagram. And when you get a chance to work at Abbey Road, don't take a picture of you on those fucking stairs because it'll wind up people who are out of work. I think that's my answer to that question. And does Simon have a question for me? Or for us?
I'll ask Simon's question. So it is, what picture would you rescore? Not because you dislike the score, but just what picture would you like to rescore? Why would you like to rescore it? And how would you approach it?
It's interesting. I've been fantasizing about rescoring something, and it's something that I won't have to split the music off with because it actually features very little score. And that is the original James Caan version of Rollerball, which has some absolutely stunning action sequences. But what they really played on back in the day was the sound of the roller skates and the motorbikes, which now sounds somewhat underwhelming. And I think the reason I would rescore Rollerball is to improve my relationship with action sequences, which I'm getting better at. I've just done this big 2.5-year project with Apple, which is all action sequences. But I would love to do Rollerball. I would love to rescore it with like an amazing band of players, of guitarists, of drummers, some orchestral elements, but almost kind of like a bit of a Prodigy score, hark back to the 1990s, and with view to doing it live, because I think it could be a lot of fun. And I've watched it recently, and there's a few kind of moments of kind of queer misogyny. There's a bit of kind of inappropriate cross-racial stuff that just use of language and stuff that stereotypes and stuff like that haven't aged well. But all in all, it is a fairly watchable film. And to be honest, of a lot of the science fiction movies from that era, it's kind of got it right. This idea of the world being run by corporations and stuff. So I think I'd have a lot of fun doing that. But the key with that is I try not to use any technology other than what I'd be recording to or sequencing with. I try to use no technology that wasn't from that era or before. A little bit like I approached Alien Isolation with my brother and Alexis Smith, where we basically decided that all of the stuff that wasn't orchestral we would be real stuff that was available when Ridley Scott made the original movie. So that's how I'd approach it. What about you, Alan, what would you say to yourself going back to 18, learning the saxophone, just about to go to Berkeley, probably at that age?
No, I was just about to go to Strathclyde.
Okay.
I was about to go to uni there. I think you've not figured it out. Like, I think you think at that age, because you're having to make a lot of choices beforehand. Like if you're at high school, it's all about what subjects you want to do, universities you want to go to. And I think at that age, you think that all these decisions that you're making, that's you. You're going to be stuck with it for the rest of your life. And I think, again, for me, in the last recent couple of years, it's not, my life has changed quite wildly at 40, 41. And I think I would say, it's, don't worry about it. You haven't figured it all out. You might think you want to do something at that age. 10 years down the line, it might be you're in some completely different job.
Yeah, being open-minded, I think, is really important. And, all of the things that I set out to do have actually been fairly underwhelming, and it's the surprises that I've enjoyed from life.
I'd say the same. I mean, for me, I think the last couple of years have been the most fun that I've had in a very long time.
Yeah.
I always thought I wanted to be a teacher, and I still enjoy that element of passing on knowledge or whatever, but you realise that actually, things you change. There's a long time between 18 and whatever age everyone is now, and it's like you do mature again. You keep maturing.
Yeah,
it's not just that you get to 18 or 21 and then you think adulthood and that's you set. It's like you're going to keep things will change. Your outlook on life will change. Things will happen. Yeah, like good and bad personal experiences will happen,
and you get cleverer.
Yeah,
I think that you think that your brain stops developing when your shoe size is kind of set, but you get cleverer, and your nose carries on growing, and so do your ears and the hair coming out of them. That's what I've discovered at 53. Should we invite people in? I think we've got 3 great questions, and. Be lovely to see some familiar and some new faces. If you basically are new to the podcast or you've been lurking before, not joining in, just click on the Google Meet, join us. You'll see a lot of regulars. They're not handpicked, they're not invited. Just anyone can come and join us at any time. I'm not going to go to Jay today because he's standing outside and I know that his microphone isn't going to work. Oh, look, he's got his Rode. We'll have to do a test there. Okay, so welcome, everyone. We've got 3 really great questions. And I think what would be really lovely as a means of promoting this podcast is if we can get sound bites out of people. So stick your hands up. And even if you don't want to kind of go into length about your answers, just getting a concise, what's your favorite compressor? Hardware, software, plugin, whatever. What is, if there was a movie that you could go and rescore, what would it be? And then it'd be lovely to know why you'd want to rescore it and how you do it. And thirdly, if you go back to when you were 18, or for some of you who are 18, if you could go back to maybe when you were at school or whatever, a period of time, a decade, let's say, what would you say to yourself? What advice would you give? There we go. And we've got lots of lovely people, and it's just nice. I've got a camera right in the way of Charles, your head, but you'll be very pleased to see that I've bought some kit as per your recommendations. I've got a floppy one, which is the amusing one that you throw, and then I've got the... So, I'm so sorry about that. That's us just losing our entire podcast audience. But you're going to lose the yeah, but I think that we're going to factor this into the credit sequence, which we're upgrading for our 50th anniversary, which would be a lot of fun. And someone told me that something was 50 years old. What was that recently? The Keith Jarrett Cologne concert.
Yeah, Keith Jarrett Cologne concert.
God, it's such a wonderful album, that. So, Charles, how are you, sir? Thanks for the... you've made Jeff Bezos about $1 richer this week because I got him from Amazon.
I'm doing well. I'm happy to have introduced you to the chicken. However, we had an domestic incident last week where my wife came into the studio to do something. I she was going to ask me a question, and I ignored her. So she used the chicken as a weapon and hit me over the head with it.
Ow.
She didn't just throw it. She
I can imagine the noise of Charles. That's really loud. Sorry.
Over 50 years, so we've been married over 50 years, so she has certain privileges. And she was at the studios in Nashville when the chicken would be flying anyway, so she can get away with that. Now the 18-year-old question.
Yes.
Meaning 18. Many years have passed since then. At my age, I have been washed by all waters and licked by all dogs. So
been and hit by all chickens.
yes, and probably hit by a few automobiles and hit by a lot of rubber chickens. If I would change anything, and I'm serious, and this is not a joke, but it'll sound funny. I would do less time chasing the skirts and more time practicing my trombone and hitting the books a little harder. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I caught a lot of skirts, did not spend my time with the books that I should have, didn't practice my trombone enough. However, I played a lot of bands, became a pretty good sight reader. People liked my playing, but still I go back to, I should have chased less skirts, practiced more trombone, spent more time with the books. I finally spent a lot of time with the books, and happily so, in graduate school. So there was a payoff, but that is my advice to any of you youngsters. Is there anybody here? I don't think there's anybody here who's even close to 18, but that's the mea culpa. As to rescoring something, I don't know why this came to my mind. Maybe because at my age, I think I like the immense challenge of it, the idea of it, and that may surprise you. I think it would be an interesting exercise to rescore Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, David White just went. That's a bold one, Charles. Brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, and I can think of so many moments in that film that are so fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a life-changing experience for me when I was a lad seeing it for the first time, before it became popular, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But that would be the challenge for me, is to do that. As to a compressor, I'm not really qualified to make a statement on that, because I have used several of them, and I don't know that I'm as facile in that arena as the rest of you folks. So I'm interested in what people might say. The function of a compressor for me, of course, I have to be sensitive because of the voiceover stuff when I do audiobooks and whatnot. But I haven't had any clients gripe with respect to that. And with respect to music, I think I've mentioned I write stuff for Megatrax. And so in their case, I'll do a temp mix, and they take the stems and they take whatever I think I like, but they actually send it to a mastering lab in LA. So they have a guy that works for them all the time. So I'm not really involved in that aspect of things. As a matter of fact, maybe somebody else can comment on their experience with music libraries. It's my impression that with all the training that is available on the internet, the libraries themselves want to kind of do their own thing with the mastering. I don't know if that's a general rule or.
Well, Charles,
if
I
the
can
composers have a responsibility to do the mastering, I think I'd like some tutelage on that. That would be very helpful to me.
I've seen it change. So it used to be the case that you used to do the mixing yourself, and then it was mastered, and you would mix to stems and provide a sum. And the sum should never be a mixed version of the stems. It should just be the sum. So basically, you put your stems together in unity, it equals the sum. And if they mute the sum and unmute all your stems, it should sound identical. That's very much the way we still deliver film. and each individual stem will be mixed, which is why stuff like bus compression and
Is it a model? Does it act as a model? That's what I'm saying. Are you implying that this might be the mix they might want in the end? Or
no? Well, this is how they used to. This is how they used to do it at library music. Now they want the multi-tracks, and that is so that everything can be broken off into constituent parts. And I think that a lot of people underestimate how the very successful libraries are actually quite hands-on with their clients in helping to provide them with materials that are very specific to their needs. And you will get.
Okay, I always send the stems out for the people.
Yeah, the multi-tracks, or some kind of midway between a multi-track and a stem. So for me, it will be stuff like strings. I'll separate into pizzicatos, shorts, effects, and then the longs separately and stuff. So thanks for that, Charles. And very, very bold starter for 10 with Lawrence of Arabia would be your choice of rescoring. I'm seeing a new face here. Mark Lee Osterland. Is it your first time joining us? You need to unmute your Dewberry. It's the little mic. Yeah, there you go.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hey. I'm reasonable, I guess. I've been here once before, but it's a while ago.
Where are you? Remind me where you're speaking from.
Denmark.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are you? You all right?
I mean, since the first time I came here, I've got my first IMDb credit, so that's.
I have a feeling that these chickens are going to be hidden the next time we do a podcast, because there's a gentleman with headphones on there who has just lost 1K for life.
But yeah, like unfortunately, I haven't worked too much at music lately. I've mostly been. I'm coming in this thing called Gold in Aarhus Film Village, which is a kind of office thing for young startups within games and animation, and I've been doing stuff for those guys.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So do you have any answers for something you'd love to score that's already been scored, whether it be film, TV, computer game? And do you have a favorite compressor?
In regards to what I'd like to have scored, it would probably be my version of Valhalla it was like one of the first Nordic feature and length animated films, which the original score was done by one of the last by Ron Goodwin.
Yeah.
And then compressor, like I just used the default Cubase one.
Great. No, it's great to hear, because I mean I used to have all of the Waves plugins and all that. I just got rid of them all because I just found, like, particularly with these laptops and stuff, that you have when you really use a computer, you do have to update them every 3 or 4 years. And I found the kind of lost plugin thing just so traumatic that I just use FabFilter. But I now more times than not, I won't go anywhere near a Logic reverb. For some reason, they just cannot get those right. They all sound awful. But the Logic house compressors is good. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think it stems from me not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. So for me, if it's got some good presets that you go voiceover, more, less.
More punch.
What was that?
Yeah. Just more punch.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got an API, we've got a UA, we've got a Cubase house compressor. Anyone else going to put their hands up? Adam, have you got any delightful?
Can I jump in really quickly?
Yeah, go. Sorry,
no.
Alan.
It's just we're now 18 away from 150,000 on the main channel.
This is a thing.
Come on,
we got it's the night team. It's the night shift here at Crow Hill.
The graveyard shift.
And we really want to get to 150,000 subscribers on the main Crow Hill challenge, just to wind up the day team and all of the hard work they put in to get more subscribers. So I can see that Mark Taylor's joining us. I'm seeing lots more online. Adam, sorry, I was coming to you to just wonder if you have any ideas about compressors, score you'd like to do, and something you'd like to tell yourself if you could go back in time to when you were 18.
If I could go back in time when I'm 18, I would have took the job as a sound engineer on one of our nuclear submarines.
Okay.
That's one thing that I regret not doing. I got the opportunity to do it.
Could you expand on that?
I show an interest in sound engineering through my education, and I got a letter one day which none of my friends received, and it basically said, "We'll pay for your university to go to Portsmouth, but you will spend 4 years with the submariners." And at that point, I said, "I've been told what to do enough," and I opted out. And then years later, I went to New York, and I went on the I can't remember the name of the submarine, but there's a submarine docked, and I spoke to a couple of submariners, and I realized I made a massive mistake.
Right.
Absolute massive mistake.
So,
but yeah, so that's, if I could have gone back to my personal self, that's what I'd have said to my.
But sorry, Adam, to quiz you on this. Is there a job of a sound engineer on a nuclear submarine, or is it just like a grant? Do this work, you get this grant. Basically,
there's people involved with sonar and everything that are interested in sound and are pulled into that direction.
I see.
So yeah, it would have been a great gateway into a very unusual world, and then once that world ends, you walk away with knowledge which is very valuable to contractors. And I didn't know any of this. Anyway, I made a big duty. I could have gone down that route, and that would have been very interesting. But yeah, I didn't want to be told what to do. And I would have just said as well, like, whatever we come up with, we're all quite unique people. And whoever's listening, if you've got like things going on, don't listen to us. Our 18-year-old advice is very unique to us. A compressor, I've got a question for a compressor. Like, all I do when it comes to effects is I use, this sounds really lame, I use Guitar Rig. And because there's so many different things in Guitar Rig in Native Instruments, that I end up just picking what sounds interesting from there, and I use that as my ideas, because it's all like racked. I have no idea, so I'm completely clueless. So what would you recommend as an entry level compressor? What would you recommend?
Well, I really do think that the most of the kind of house compressors that you get with doors are pretty good, and the presets. The one thing I would advise against is, like, I often will pick up a copy of Sound on Sound, and it's like how to compress and EQ a kick drum, and it's like, well, surely it depends on the kick drum. So I think that adding these things and not twiddling with the knobs is probably not very good, because it's all to do with the signal that you put in. If you were to get like a copy of a hardware thing, I'll mention my favorite compressor is the Neve 33609. It's just incredibly musical. It's not a smasher. It doesn't smash stuff to pieces, but what it does is just it's so sought after by engineers, and I know that there's some good imitations of the 33609. So that's what I would recommend. And if you're wanting to smash stuff to smithereens, again, there's plug-in versions. The Distressor is fantastic, and it's got a kind of a nuke mode with a blue light, which I guess is appropriate for your not chosen pathway in audio engineering. Jay, how are you? Let's try your mic.
Something that I did in school, it was like a teacher told me this, is like, listen, this is what you're going to do. Grab a song and you're going to mix it, but the only thing you get to use is the plugin you're trying to learn, or the machine you're trying to learn.
That's
so it's
an
like,
interesting idea.
Okay, so then I'm going to get this one compressor, and that's the only thing you get to use to make it sound good. Yes, there's EQs, but when you're learning things, like, that's the only one you get to use. And do 2, 3, and then you'll learn it.
Yeah, it's good advice. Something that I've really noticed in presets that you get in door compressors, where percussion and drums is concerned, is the attack is always too fast on those presets and the release is too slow. So one of the things that I really love to do with drums is to increase the transients. And what I find is when you really push them on door compressors is the attack is so fast. So what you get is just a tiny, but what you want is a, and by increasing the attack just so that you get the crack before it comes in, but you also want it to release. So you don't want it like coming in on the one of a bar and then just squashing your entire bar, particularly for individual drums. But that's something I've just found that's kind of universally across door presets for drums. It's like, why would you have the attack that quick? You want the crack. You want it to kind of crack, then compress. So that's something to look out for. Delighted to see that Mark Taylor has joined us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very good, actually. Yeah. So in terms of compressor, right? If I had to choose the compressor, I would probably go for Reaper's. Reaper has a compressor, and I think it's pretty good. Honestly. There's it has a few compressors, but the one that I use the most is I've got it here. It's called 1175 fast compressor with program dependent release. That's what it's called. And another, I'm just reading what it says on the thing. And
great stuff, Mark. And I'm enjoying seeing all the stuff that you're doing on social media and stuff at the moment. So congratulations on that. Yeah, I think that compressors of all of the things that you work with, there's definitely they're almost like instruments. And I think that you just, when you're wanting to work quickly, and which is something, a skill you definitely have to develop, that being able to just know what you're going to do with something, I think is really helpful. And I think that suggestion from Jay is absolutely brilliant about just, experiment with mixing every instrument, but with just that one compressor or plug-in or whatever it is you're using to really understand it. I've never really understood multipressors. So multipressors are compressors that respond to different frequencies. And something that I'm actually going to be doing as part of the film that I'm making is creating frequency-specific compressors using outboard things that aren't multipressors. I think that one of the really good things about what we're using with plugins at the moment is they're visually can be very stimulating, particularly the FabFilter ones, and they can get you to where you want to go a lot quicker. But what I do find unfortunate about them is that you don't really learn the lingo of what's ratio, what's threshold, what's attack release, and what's kind of makeup gain or whatever. And I think that, having these plugins where you draw what you want it to do is great, but it doesn't, I think, help with your knowledge base. And something I find really useful about, I say I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of know what the knobs do, and I know how they shape the sound, and I just shape the sound until I'm happy with it. But by learning on stuff that actually has the knobs and the correct words underneath, it does mean that I can jump on someone's Final Cut Pro session or their DaVinci session or Premiere Pro session, pull up a compressor plugin if I'm helping with the dub and know what I'm doing. So that would be something that I'd recommend is if you're wanting to genuinely kind of learn about these things and have these skills as transferable across different platforms and different disciplines, then I would recommend trying a compressor that's not too GUI dependent, if you know what I mean. No one's putting their hands up, and I'm just going to basically throw people under the bus and come and quiz them. Lee, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good, thank you. It was weird because I was thinking about putting my hand up, so at least I have something to say. It was actually thanks to everybody else's comments, to be fair, because I didn't have anything, and then everyone just gave me a bit of inspiration. So I don't use any analog gear at the moment. It's been a long time since I've been able to use that. However, I've noticed from what other people say when they talk about plugins online is it kind of depends how well you know the plugin as well. And for me, a lot of the time when I'm trying to design sound for what I do, I really like using flangers. And two of my favorites, one of them is the Robo Flanger inside Logic, which is in their virtual pedal board or as a stomp box on its own. Quite straightforward and simple, but just really like the sound. And Blue Cat Audio do a lot of free software, including a flanger and a phaser, and I love that one as well. Just this kind of the sound kind of suits me.
Yeah.
I like those. In terms of recompare, I wouldn't rescore any film or even a game really, but I do like the idea of doing a Streets of Rage game. If anyone's, there's a guy called Yuzo Koshiro who really pioneered music for the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis, as it was known in the States, an old 16-bit console from like the 90s. And he really pushed it and made this music that you would not think was coming from a games console, certainly not from the 90s era. And it was all like dance music, EDM type stuff. And then they've done a recent game as well where I forget who else they brought on board, but they kind of collaborated on it. Something like that would be really fun because it's all kind of EDM, kind of dance and hip hop and drum and bass, all that kind of stuff. That would be a lot of fun. In terms of what to say to my 18-year-old self is probably a lot of things, but I think the main one, quite relevant, is it took me a long time. I always knew I was interested in music, but it took me a long time to kind of accept that that's really what I need to be doing, and for lots of reasons that I think everyone else is familiar with, it's tough to kind of accept that when you know it's an extremely difficult path to walk, and as a success is definitely by no means guaranteed. I would have said to myself, no, you're right, it is music and you've just got to push it and don't worry about it. And for me, that's like that's probably the big one. It would have been helpful if I had recognized that a little bit sooner. I think I got away with it by the skin of my teeth, I think, by realizing it in recent years. So it would have been nice to realize it a bit sooner, but I would certainly advise that to anyone who's kind of sure, but they're not making the decision. Just like have a bit of confidence and go for it, even if you don't quite know how it's going to work out. That's pretty much what I have for that.
Thank you, Lee. I think it's absolutely, yeah. I think that the one thing I would just recommend for anyone wanting to create success in a creative industry is to just look at the dictionary definition of tenacity every single day. I think it's the single most important and common thread that I see through the thousands of composers and successfully creative people, is this dogged desire to keep going, regardless of the feedback you're getting from your own terrible creations and mistakes and stuff. And the fact of the matter is most people just give up. So there is a degree of it, which is war of attrition. But there's also, the more mistakes you make, the better you get. So it's, I think that, luck does play into it. But I think that I really do believe in that definition of luck being, putting the practice in, being in the right place at the right time. And luck doesn't always mean good fortune. You can take you look at anyone who's won the lottery, they tend to actually work out to be very unfortunate because they don't know what to do with the money. So I think that there's so often, again, going back to my comment of it not being a race, so often you can get lucky, but way too soon and have a terrible experience that can have a real impact on your career. So I think it's about being tenacious. And I do love this idea of Kaizen, of having a degree of contrition in what you do so you can learn by your mistakes. And the first step towards doing that is to accept that you have made a mistake. And particularly as a composer, that you're a head of department and you must take the blame for absolutely everything that happens within your department. That is absolutely crucial. Alan, you're a recovering music technology teacher. What are the kind of the initial pointers that you give to students regarding compression?
I think it's difficult to. I think they just have to kind of mess around with it to hear what it's actually doing.
Yeah,
I think if my thing is, if you can hear the compressor, you've actually got too much compression on it.
Mhm.
and you want to almost just back it off. So get it to a point where you're really hearing it, compress whatever you're doing, and take the 10% off.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of you were at our facilities, but the SSL bus compressor,
Yeah.
like it's
Famous,
it's just legendary, absolutely legendary. When I saw your 33609, I was like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's just such a beauty. It's funny trying to teach compression. You realize that for students, it's they have to just be able to hear it. And
Yes.
that takes time, like being able to understand or hear what a compressor's doing. Doesn't matter what the knobs mean or ratio or whatever. It's actually just to hear what it's doing. And we've talked about how I have a visceral hatred of the word, obviously. You would think that you would hear it and you would say, you couldn't understand why the students couldn't hear what the compressor was doing. And it's because they hadn't trained their ears.
Yeah.
So it was always, for me, it was like slam it.
Yeah.
And then just back it off until you can't really hear it.
Yeah.
And you say you'd like to chop the bottom end off? Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
just make your mix way
I
more
just do it
efficient.
as a matter
It's
of
the same
course.
for even editing this podcast.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just makes it way more efficient because when I'm doing this, it's like I put a multiband on the Google Meet because we have so many people from so many different places with so many different microphones that one compressor wouldn't work.
Yeah. It's really interesting to talk about that. Something I found really interesting is that we don't really live in a stereo world anymore. Certainly where like my kids' generation is concerned. I've got a 17, a 15 and a 14-year-old. And when I got this mixer, my one of my kids wanted to just understand it. And they got the treble, they got the bass, but they couldn't hear what the pan pots were doing at all. And it was recognizing that something moving in space was a thing that I was doing, but because they basically consume so much on phones and on tablets.
So I had the exact same experience. I still remember it. I was in the studios with a group of students who were lower level kind of introduction to music tech, and we were it was stereo. It was mixing and stereo mixing, and I played the extended version of "Slave to the Rhythm" by Grace Jones. Now, if anybody's heard that, it's an insane mix.
Yeah.
It's so wide, and the nice thing about it is if you go, it's the Hot Blood version.
Yeah,
I think it is, and it's twice the length of the original cut.
It's just duplicate.
It's duplicate, exactly, without the main vocals.
Yeah,
which is brilliant because suddenly you have the track without the vocals.
Yeah,
and this lad could not hear, and I was kind of summing it to mono.
Yeah,
and he couldn't tell the difference between the stereo version and the mono version. He just couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of sitting there. You have to be quite stony faced and not want to kind of go, what? Because like I said, if anybody's heard it, it's one of the most stereo fueled pieces of music.
Yeah.
Like it's an insane piece, but he just couldn't hear it. And it's exactly what you said, is that most people consume it on their phones.
And I would say with Slave to the Rhythm, the highest charting pop tune with a go-go beat.
Is it?
I think so, yes. A lot of people don't realise, you listen to it, it's pure trouble funk. And it's, I know the percussionist who played on that. I also have talked to some people about that session and how Grace needed to go for a loo break whilst doing the vocal session and didn't come back. And then the next time the producer spoke to her, some 4 hours later, she was in New York. She's got on a plane from England on a Concorde and just literally gone, I'm just going for a wee, and decided that wee needed to be in New York. And
I'll need to remember that, so the next time I have to dash out for the toilet during this podcast.
There you go.
I'll catch you later.
I'll hear the planes going over. One of the beauties of mixing as well is time. Is you just kind of eke away. And I remember the good old days of, working on these and, a bit of outboard and stuff. And there's just this wonderful moment where it just clicks. But it's all of these tiny little incremental changes that you're making that I think are really helpful. Charles, back to you.
Just really quickly.
Yeah, sorry, Alan.
We're 12 away from
12 away
12, come on.
from 150,000 subscribers on the main channel. please, people, go and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your mum, tell your dad. I did a documentary series for a franchise called Time Watch, which is a big BBC franchise. It's been running for probably about 30 years. And my approach to the music was how I've always approached other documentaries, which is, fairly bombastic, this, that, and the other. And the producers said, listen, you can't do that with this documentary because we know that the age group who watch this are predominantly above the age of 60. And there is a proven fact that the ability to separate dialogue from music diminishes as you get older. And as a consequence, they just get, because these things have huge audiences globally, they would just be inundated with complaints of, I cannot hear what the fucking contributors are doing. And as I get older, I'm getting more and more sensitive to that. I watched American Beauty the other day, and I just couldn't hear a word of what they were saying. I'd watched it in the past, and I knew that I did. So it's just one of those kind of empathy points. And a very quick point. If you want to hear the worst read poem or the worst read poetry, get a poet to read it. Poets and actors don't go well together. Poets, the way they like poetry to be read is absolutely appalling, but that's a bit of a side note. I used to have a relationship with a guy who was a composer, and I'd get him to master my stuff and he'd get me to master his stuff. And it was always actually a really pleasant surprise. We're always very kind of respectful. And I guess being musicians mastering this stuff as opposed to mastering engineers, we'd always make sure it was respectful and musical. But it was lovely to get an extra set of ears and a different attitude and bringing out what they enjoyed and suppressing what they didn't enjoy so much. Also putting it through a different set of speakers, a different environment, and also just not having that familiarity with the mix, I think is absolutely right. I think everyone's touched on real key points here. And I think that we, something that hasn't been mentioned is that one of the best ways of compressing stuff, mixing stuff, EQing stuff, whatever it is to pick a good mic and put it in front of a good instrument being played by a wonderful person in a nice sounding room. And I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to when we get a proper HQ with a studio to work in, of doing more and promoting more and giving people the opportunity of experiencing more. I think that one of the greatest recorded pieces of like soundtracks of the late 20th century is the Buena Vista Social Club. And this is some amazing musicians who, like at the crack of dawn, can just make their lips bleed for hours on end through their brass instruments. But you're talking about 2 or 3 microphones just placed in the sweet spot. If you listen to those Motown classics, again, you actually look at that studio. It's not a particularly impressive space, but what they got out of it is amazing. So, I think there's a lot to be said for working with what you've got and not adding too much sugar and ketchup and icing and all of that kind of stuff. And on that note, I just have to thank you for coming to this place this week and for offering up your views on, scores that you'd like to record, what you'd say to your 18-year-old self, and also, what compressor is your favorite. And I was distracted myself with just something that I heard a physicist talking about recently is don't concentrate too hard on what you want to be. Concentrate more on what you want to do. We only have one, time round this mortal coil. And I think that just make every moment matter, and just don't find yourself kind of stuck in a rut with this kind of aim of becoming something or something that you think you want to become or want to do. I got into this to do music for spaceships and robots. I scored some spaceships and robots, found it very boring. On that note, love to you all. See you next week on the Extras channel, week after on the main channel. Bye-bye.
If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip and join the fellowship.